Alright, what's up, yins guys? Time for another video. And I'm going to talk about Canada again. Yep, talking about Canada again. And I've been highly interested in what's going on in Canada because it looks like it's a model for what's going on in my country and what they're trying to do. And yeah, if any of you want to turn up your noses or whatever the hell and say conspiracy theorist or whatever the fuck, well, there's to you. But anyway, I would really like to be wrong about this, but what this reeks of, yeah, I'm going to talk about the cop again. That was the Canadian cop saying, yeah, put your keys in front of your door, let them take your car, and we're not coming. Whatever excuse that we can't send police to patrol your nice neighborhoods anymore, put the key there and let them take your car. And it reeks, I'm going to say once again, it reeks of communist takeover. You know, it sounds to me, it reeks to me of the commandeering of vehicles for maybe somebody that's going to get a cut to sell them. Is this a polite way of saying that we know who the thugs are, right? And we want them, and we're using them to commandeer your vehicles and your property. Yeah, your life is too extravagant, you know, in the name of equity, like equality and all that shit. We're going to make you all the same. And how come a cop, when you have a cop say this, they're saying a version of this in my country too, in some of the cities. And you would want to say a person is a taxpayer watching a cop on television saying this, and like that one on Canada. The taxpayer would be saying, like, what the fuck are we paying you for, asshole? Basically a cop says this on television. So nice way of saying, I don't give a fuck about what you think, as long as I have a job. And if you defend yourself, we have a gun on your hip. We don't have resources to protect you or your property. If you defend yourself, somebody breaks into your house, we got the resources to send people with guns on their hip to avenge the thugs, put it that way. That sounds more like, yeah, imagine a wife, somebody with a wife and kids, right, and defends his house, and somebody sends people, soldiers or police with badges and guns on their hip, take the husband away, kids are crying, and meanwhile, squatting is being allowed, commandeering of property. Yeah, they'll take your wife and kids too, and everything just like that, you know what I mean? Sounds more like what they did in Cambodia, right, and a lot of other countries. Commandeering of property. And okay, well, I'm going to throw in here not seeming to care about capitalist businesses or taxpayer. When you start seeing that irrational things going on, which what they're doing to businesses, which don't seem to make sense, and the idea that you're talking about it, you'll sound like a conspiracy theorist to people, but yet, you wonder why governments are seeming to, in some places, care less about businesses that are taxpayers that are bringing them revenue, right? In a country that lives on tax revenue, you would want businesses, and you want people that work for businesses and have a job, that have a nice car, which the Canadian police are saying just leave the key in front of your door so people can steal, right? Okay, the taxpayer works for tax-paying businesses. The person that goes to work and works for what you get. Why would you want to have cops on television say, oh yeah, we're going to let thugs put the key in front of your door, let them commandeer the property? And they're not to protect and serve people that own property and don't care about a safe community anymore. They're saying that we're going to give everything to the thugs. And when they don't care about businesses that are supposed to be sources of tax revenue, either, maybe, just maybe, even some of you people that believe in biblical revelation and this thing about that universal basic income shit comes to mind. Say they wanted to make a universal currency, do away with currency. And say you have a communist government where, right, communist owns everything. There's no more capitalist businesses, and you have the food lines, communist food lines. Maybe in this day and age, they might have people just delivering a certain amount of food delivered to your door. Basically, they'll be telling you what you can and can't own and how much you can and can't eat, right? Everybody according to, like, what was that in the Communist Manifesto? Everything according to your means, right? And since Canadians, I mean, I'm going to bring up a lyric from a Canadian singer, Gordon Lightfoot, which maybe the whole song doesn't reflect. Well, the song Baby Step Back, which there was a saying in there in the song that always comes to my mind. Yeah, maybe you'll give much more than I need or much less than I should own. But the lyrics in the song can apply to certain situations, like also in the song, I don't kneel down, I was born to fight, you best leave me alone. Would it come to a point where also Canada says, oh yeah, you decide to protest this in large amounts, kind of like bringing up the COVID truckers protest again. Okay, we can shut your money off, so you better not protest us. But then I'll say, like the late George Carlin said in a video that's on YouTube now, a clip, doing away with electricity. The police can't help you anymore. What if the police does, or say they just shut down the police ain't going to enforce anything anymore? Hey, maybe if you think you're going to keep your people in line, right, by saying, okay, you better not protest this. This is what we're doing now. Allowing thugs to commandeer your property, your cars, right? And if you decide to get in a mob and protest this, when you get out of line, we're going to shut your money off. But doesn't it occur to that asshole Trudeau and the Canadian government that if you push the people to a point where it doesn't matter anymore, you're not going to, if you push them so far to a point where, okay, you know, the working people do not have anything anymore. Everything they work for is just getting taken away, commandeered by the thugs, which being allowed. And of course, you got to disarm them and don't allow them to do any other kind of firearm defense too either. And once you've established a type of thug rule, you're pretty much putting thugs as the foot soldiers, kind of like what in Cambodia, they were murdering getting the thugs, some of them even young kids, murdering school teachers, murdering their own parents. Totalitarian government, somebody comes right in your house, they can take your car, take everything. Yeah, what does that reek of to you? And I'm bringing up the universal basic income shit and why, if they don't care that where their behavior in government, they don't care about businesses, they're supposed to bring in a lot of tax revenue. Okay, where I'm going with this, right? If you see they start giving a shit less about businesses, right, that have money and is supposed to bring in tax revenue, which doesn't make sense. That seems like a sign to me that, no more privately owned businesses, all owned by government, no more businesses. We're going to get to feed you, we're not going to have food stores anymore where you go in and buy food. Maybe universal basic income will give you a little money. It's almost like universal welfare money. Yeah, universal basic income will give you a little jingle in your pockets. Like, we're the daddy and we'll give you a little pittance and an allowance. Really? Well, you can also go way back sometimes, too, in medieval times where you had some medieval knights in armor that some people argue that were no better than Tony Soprano in the mobster movies, right? Depending on what region you lived in, Dark Ages, medieval times. And eventually you had Renaissance and everything else too, where Okay, yeah, where the soldiers can come to your door, you paid the king your taxes, and you don't have any communication with the king. Just try, you'd never make it there alive, right? And say back in them days, they didn't have anything digital back in them days, but like we have now. But you can bring up a digital version of that where, hey, yeah, you pay your taxes to the king, and the people coming in to collect the taxes, the soldiers, say, we want to take more taxes and tribute, put it in our pockets, and maybe you don't have to worry about hey, telling the king on them ain't gonna make no difference because the king uh, allowed the soldiers, the thug soldiers, which I almost want to say something in a ballpark manner. How turbulent medieval times, which not trying to be historically correct here, but well, you had those times, then you had times where countries were being overthrown by communism. What the fuck people were doing, right? Good way to make everybody equal. Maybe if you're graced with a little bit of money, take away the concept of money, universal basic income, right? Grace you with a little bit of money, but very limited place to spend it, because after all, you don't got capitalist businesses anymore. Whether you go into food line, we give you a pittance, like that you have this so much, or whatever the hell, however you want to do it. Or you can argue that why having a universal basic income when there's no capitalist business is around, or any kind of way of anybody making money. They maybe give you some kind of, grace you with a little bit of tokens of some kind that is redeemable for how much food, or tell you how much entertainment you have, or what you can have for entertainment, tell you what you can and can't have, what you can and can't own. And anyway, when it gets to a point where you have a cop on a television saying, okay, it's better to leave the keys in front of your door, they're basically saying whatever other popular excuse, oh, we don't have the resources to have any police enforce anything anymore, but we'll send somebody to your door if somebody breaks in your house, if you resist the commandeering of your property by these thugs. We don't see them as thugs, we really see them as people commandeering your property, and if you resist, then we're going to send people with guns on our hips and badges to your door and take you away from your wife and kids while the wife and kids are crying, and them same things, thugs or squatters come right in the house and do whatever they want, take over your possessions and your wife and kids too, or oh yeah, maybe sell them to have them trafficked. Go ahead and have them trafficked too. How about that? Let people do whatever. That don't sound all too different than what went on in history. And Ivan the Terrible comes up, and Cambodia comes up, and any other South American country that uses, just say, we're going to give everything to the thugs, use the thugs as foot soldiers, because when you want to overthrow country or multiple countries, I mean, especially call everybody terrorist that wants the right to bear arms, right? When you're a bunch of commies wanting to take over something, and you don't got soldiers, and you don't got a big amount of revenue to pay soldiers, the same way we pay military to protect our country and pay military to go fight other countries' battles, or send military aid, right? Military industrial complex. If you don't have that, an army, what do you do when you don't have an army and you want a communist? You have this warped dream of a communist overthrow. You get a bunch of thugs, allow it, right? And you're going to give them a cut, give them the plunder, no different than Dark Ages or communist stuff that I'm saying, ballpark. Hey, they did it in the Dark Ages, medieval times too. You don't got money, so to speak, to pay soldiers or mercenaries, right? Or you don't got money. Because mercenaries, after all, that they use nowadays for wars, and they're expensive too. They're not cheap. I mean, you want to throw in back in the earlier days of YouTube when people were bringing up caviar and Halliburton and all that stuff. But I digress there. But geez, when you don't have money or resources to pay soldiers or pay mercenaries, and you're a communist, what do? You get encourage in the shadows all the thugs who want to defund the police, hate the police, and encourage young kids and all kind of thugs saying the rich are all evil people. And even if they're not rich, common working class people that have nice cars, teach common street thugs and people on welfare, right, to hate the person down the street, right, that has a nice car. You got all the foot soldiers you need, and you just promise them to plunder, right? Because you don't have money to pay them, and I mean, you got a vibe like in the movies, the Purge movies, and even though that's only a movie, right? But you don't think they had fucking purges when you had the communist takeover, Dark Ages, different people taking over. Then the YouTube video, the story of your enslavement comes in mind, where people were allowed to hold on to and have their personal land and property as long as they paid off the local warlords with their crops. You know what I mean? And when I listened to Jim Quinn on Pittsburgh radio station, after he got out of DJing, when he used to be on FM radio, he used to say in some cases back in them days, you had some medieval, I don't want to misquote him completely, but he had some things where you had a little bit of decent medieval towns that, you paid taxes to the barons, but at least you got protection. But yet, that only applies to certain places. It wasn't in every single medieval town. And to be historically correct, you'd have to be talking about all the plagues, everything, all the the Dark Ages, and how everything went to hell when you had Renaissance and come back again, and the popular bullshit about history. But I digress. But anyway, that's what that shit reeks of. And ain't nobody gonna tell me different. And you gotta be, and I gotta be, if you got this long in this video, you gotta be careful how you say this, because the far left will say, oh, you don't like us for wanting to defund the police, right? They'll go and, the far left will love to say this. Oh, you don't like us because we want to defund the police, but look at you, curse of the police. No, you got it all wrong. When you got somebody with a badge going on a television, okay, and saying that we're not here, we're going to get paid, sit here and we're going to get our paychecks, with a badge on TV saying we're not going to protect you no more, leave your property, we're going to let people take your property, and make some bullshit reason why everything people work for, the cops ain't going to protect it. The cop is these people or cops really should be throwing down their badges, really, and getting the fuck out of town. Their life doesn't matter any more than a thug's life matter. Put it that way. When it gets to that point, I mean, I believe in law and order with police. Protect people from burglaries, people stealing things that they didn't work for, and vandalizing, which is wrong. Cops and soldiers should be there to protect the people for that. But when they're not doing their job, and when they're going on a fucking TV set like in Canada saying, we're not going to protect you anymore, this is how it's going to be, and making an innuendo that, oh, if you do anything to defend yourself, we can send people with guns on our hips to take you away, then those cops really, I think COVID actually killed better people. In matter of fact, the 2020 riots, it was disappointing that all those people that vandalized people's property and businesses not enough of them died of this COVID. And you know, society did live on in recovering from the damages. And put it this way, any thug, I'm not picking on anybody because they're race, because I support unwoke black YouTubers too, which believe in a sense of decency, okay? And I do that with a smile on my face so nobody can say you're racist or whatever. And I don't believe in that bullshit where I would support the unwoke black YouTubers, because I don't support any idea that everybody that's white should self-degrade in the name of equity, and just because you're white you're guilty of some racism sin, so therefore you got to self-degrade and be subjugated under somebody because of their color. I would rather say fuck you, and I'm gonna support black YouTubers that are against that shit. But I digress. That's in there too. I gotta not spend too much time on it. That's in there too. So getting this far in this video, if it has to be said, I don't like to say these things, but there are certain people that deserve to die, and they should, if they get sick or die of a heart attack or a stroke. It can get to a point where you can say, well, since my beliefs are a mixture of Christianity and the occult, I tell it like it is, you know, for the sense of good. Believe in being a forgiver, I believe in mercy, but there is a point where if you don't give a damn about the people and you want to destroy the civilized world, a little bit of everybody, whether they're black or white and whether they have a badge, a little bit of everybody would deserve to just die. And even you're merciful to a point, but it can get to a point where people like this, you just laugh when they die. It will get to that point. If it gets to that point, yeah, a person like that with a badge should throw down the badge, and him along with the thugs, certain thugs like this, really deserve to suffer if they were to get a stroke or get something else. And say this without you being accused of threatening anybody. But actually, when it comes down to it, I mean, if you care more about thugs than law-abiding citizens, and any innuendo that you're going to send somebody with a badge and a gun on them up to the door for defending themselves and tell them that they got to surrender their property to thugs. There's a mixture of people that really deserve to die and deserve to suffer without you threatening to ever have to kill them, which you would admit to rejoicing of them dying of a stroke. But yeah, I mean, if everything gets that crippled like the late George Carlin said if we lost electricity, that little YouTube video. Yeah, a bunch of thugs coming there, yeah. You got any beer? You got any women? No, it's just me and my wife, or maybe me and my wife and my 7-8-year-old girl or even boy. Oh yeah, we'll make that work. Yeah. Yeah, you don't think it would ever come to that? Late George Carlin said that like he was joking. Say if it comes to that, it stands to reason to me, even though I don't like to say these things, but if it ever comes to that point where civilized, hard-working and law-abiding citizens are losing everything they work for, and everything is just going to be allowed to collapse, and they got nothing to lose. Say they want to kind of stand and survive and push back. If it ever happens that it turns like into a Vlad the Impaler thing, and any authorities that tell you to give everything to your thugs, and those thugs end up sitting out there on a pole, Vlad the Impaler's side. I ain't telling anybody to do that. I think they deserve it. These people will deserve it. I mean, there's a point where, yeah, say Canada, you don't protest what's going on, and you're not gonna protest what's going on, right? Or we're gonna shut your money off. But then, what happens when that thing you think you got control of them, right? And they don't got no more to lose. You know what I mean? Oh, okay. These people in authority know that can happen when they're squeezing the people and they got no more to lose. So that's why they got to disarm them. Yeah, right. So yeah, we got to keep them weak too, mentally and physically weak too. If they decide to have any other kind of non-firearm type abilities, yeah, or bare hands. You know what I mean? And the reason why I'm saying this too, you disarm somebody, right, and don't allow them to defend themselves, right, and they want to defend their wife and kids against thugs, and not they care about the life of their wife and kids over the property. It's stand the reason if you had a wife and a kids, putting the property aside, you want to kill them with your bare hands. Or yeah, you don't got a gun because you're not allowed to have a gun. A lamp works real well around the corners. Hit them in the face with a lamp, right? Then you got control of the thug's gun. Oh, wait a minute. That's against the law too. Why would they make that against the law? You know what I mean? This whole thing sounds like it's by design. I mean, what happens when it starts to really reek of it being by design, and it don't look like conspiracy theory anymore? You know what I mean? And is that what it's actually coming to? Good thing, in my country, I'm living in a civilized neighborhood, and we got a lot of civilized neighborhoods in my area so far. Not like the big cities, not like fucking New York and places like that, where they're allowing squatting now and arresting homeowners. Yeah, and by the way, too, you got this far in this video, yeah, it's very imperative. People in my country have safe and nice towns. They better get right away with their town councils, their local politicians, and even their attorney generals, their fucking governors, or at the very least, the people that govern their own towns. Get some laws up there right away to discourage these squatters, and don't create any, don't allow anybody to allow homeowners to get arrested and have thugs and squatters calling cops on homeowners. You know what I mean? At least, from what I see, Ron DeSantis in Florida was trying to actually change that law. God bless him for that. Even though Joe Embriano in his YouTube channel was calling him Ron the Satan, that he doesn't like Ron DeSantis. I'll give DeSantis kudos if he clearly is sticking to making laws to stop this squatting nonsense. Given that, you know what I mean? But yeah, this is what basically saying what needs to happen, and why my country shouldn't follow Canada, and why Canada really should see the error of its ways, and saying there's hope for my country because we got some people combating this bullshit, because we see what's going on in our major cities, and I'm saying there's hope. But basically, this is basically on behalf of Americans and working Canadians, and the messages. This was all for Canada, and the whole point of this video is people in my country, we're watching Canada, and watching our country too, but we're watching Canada and wondering the shit that's going on in Canada, that's going on in my country, that's not going on in my country yet, but we're worried that maybe eventually it will be. So we're watching Canada. Some of us are watching Canada, seeing if it's a model for what's happening here. Some stuff that's happening in here, some stuff that's happened in Canada that hasn't happened here yet. And I don't know if it's vice versa too. I mean, you tell me. If you're Canadian, you got something happening in my country that's not happening in your country yet. I want to know about it if you got this far, if you sat through this. But anyway, I think that's about it for this. It's already gone pretty far here anyway. Very long video, time to cut this short. But I think I pretty much covered everything.